Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
The Stock Movers Podcast, your roundup of companies making moves in the stock market, harnessing the power of Bloomberg data.
I'm Tim Stennebeck along with Carol Masser. Let's take a look at some stocks on the move this week. Red Brown is Bloomberg News earnings reporter. Red, you've had a lot to choose from.
Yeah, it's I guess it's my turn to kind of interpret how some of these headlines, so many headlines that we're getting, are kind of impacting some of the markets. One of the one that's probably top of mind for a lot of people is oil field service providers. Halliburton up 13% this week, gained 5.5% today. Prior to this week, the stock was actually down around 24% for the year. So really has kind of swung positive on a lot of the headlines that we're getting out of the Middle East. Oil prices jumped 8% today, the most since 2022, excuse me. And so, analysts are trying to kind of digest, and traders as well are in a little bit of a shoot first, ask questions later, as a lot of people are reacting to these headlines. So quite a complicated situation. A lot of other names up in the top 10, APA Corp, ConocoPhillips, Newmont, Diamondback, EOG, all within the top 10 gainers for the week.
Wow.
Yeah, right. And so much of it because of what happened today.
Exactly.
No doubt about it.
I think it was the only sector in the S&P 500 on Friday that was in the green. Is that right, Carol?
I think you're absolutely right. There's 11 major industry groups, and I think it was the energy group on Friday that you saw some outperformance, and we understand why. Let's get to Smuckers.
Yeah, Smuckers, ticker is SJM. That stock is actually down around 13% this week and actually erased all of its gains for the year. That had to do to its earnings it had on Wednesday. It had one of the worst performances in close to 30 years after that report came out, where the company warned that higher coffee prices will be making a pretty significant impact on their earnings this year. They lowered their earnings per share outlook by $1 to $9.5 per share now, and that's to account for how tariffs are impacting the coffee supply chains. It's not really a name that I kind of associate with coffee, really, but they do have they do own the Folgers brands, and I think that's probably one we're all familiar with. And
well, everybody
hold on.
Wait, everybody's been dissing it, like it's your grandmother's coffee.
I like Folgers.
Okay,
I know, right? It's kind of easy. I drank a lot in college.
Why are we not talking about Cafe Bustelo? That's a brand that Folgers also owns, and I will say about
you are
12 to 15 years ago in Brooklyn, that was like the hipster coffee to have.
But
I guess, I don't know.
You would have never struck me as a hipster, Tim.
No, I'm not saying I'm a hipster or I was a hipster. It was something I noticed among that crowd.
He's just a good reporter.
You know what he's a little snob about? Coffee.
Yeah.
I thought he was like such a mellow dude, coffee. Little did I know that he spends like hours in the morning making the perfect cup of coffee. And he won't have any more coffee.
No coffee for the rest of the day. Just one perfect cup.
Like little angels come in and they bring in the beans.
It's really great.
See?
I mean, I'm like taking it intravenously upstairs, so I think Tim's got a better relationship than I do.
It is good to cut back a little bit, I will say.
I'm not there yet.
And just focus.
Yeah.
I think after weeks like this, I'm not ready to cut back on coffee. So,
well, speaking of that, we got another one.
Oracle?
Yeah, Oracle, best performing stock in the S&P 500 this week. Up
on a tear.
On an absolute tear, up 23% this week. And shares are up less than 10%. Now they're closer to 30 for the year. And I'll be honest, I was kind of, after like this earnings season, it seems like we got a lot of neutral reports from the kind of like the Mount Rushmore of AI companies, if you will. So I didn't have huge kind of expectations heading in. But, management was super bullish about their expectations for the next fiscal year. They say sales will be dramatically higher. That's a quote from the CEO during their report. They're calling out their sales will actually be accelerating. So that's not something NVIDIA and Broadcom could kind of boast to at the moment. So so really, really strong and optimistic view from Oracle for that business that they use to kind of rent out computing space to the AI players. And just for some context, their sales grew 8% in fiscal year 2025, which ended in May, expected to accelerate to 16% this next fiscal year.
The stock's up like 70% since April 21st. I'm like blown away.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's been, like you said, on an absolute tear. So, and given what they've just said yesterday, it doesn't look like it will be ending anytime soon.
The Stock Movers Podcast from Bloomberg Radio. Check back with us throughout the day for the latest roundup of companies making news on Wall Street. And for the latest market-moving headlines, listen to Bloomberg Radio live. Catch us on YouTube, Bloomberg.com, and on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app.